analytics where it pulls whatever's in your top sort of viewage area. So say like 150 people are clicking on this, that automatically gets pushed to sort of like the top link that you see on your website. From transparency and the political process, making it more transparent, specifically one of the things that you were honing in on was getting individuals more involved in the process. I think folks are going to be as involved as they want to be, but folks are also going to be as involved as they're allowed and informed to be. So somebody might be interested in helping come do Clean and Beautiful, but also somebody might like have a marketing specialty. They don't like getting their hands dirty, but if they can help, the economic development individual that just got hired, Yanko, do her job better and volunteer their time, that might make that person feel fulfilled as a pro bono assistant to the city. Does the city sort of have an avenue open for that right now? I really don't feel like it does. So I think that should happen. In terms of open.gov, I mean, thanks Josh for putting that in the budget. I really do think that that's going to help a lot in terms of getting the data out there as it relates to the budget. But from a development standpoint, you still got to focus on the front end. So if we're posting that we bought supplies from Home Depot, that's not as detailed and line item oriented as knowing everything we purchased on that receipt. The sort of crux in that thing is that we still use an outdated accounts payable software from a company called Tyler Technologies. It's terrible. Get that, throw it out the door, put in the new accounts payable and accounts receivable software that actually lets you see the line item data. Only then would a solution like open.gov be worth spending the money on. Elsewise, you're just going to see that we spent money on supplies or we spent money on truck. But what does that really mean? One location, I think we should hone in on doing all of our meetings in one location so somebody's not confused if they're going to City Hall or to the Doug Davis location. And personally, similar to what John was saying, a rotating schedule. I mean, open it up to civic organizations. Make sure that anybody from the Service League to the Exchange Club to the neighborhood associations is sort of willing to allow you to come on a rotating schedule just to hear your voice. But also focus on the underserved communities that might not be might not have had somebody reach out to them in the past to engage them civically. I mean, you had 40 kids between the age of like 4 to 10 playing soccer out at Coatfield Park behind the teaching museum yesterday. And like, yeah, I'm not going to preach politics to a 6-year-old, but like giving them a handout to get their parents more involved would help reach out to the Latino community in ways that we probably aren't doing right now. So.
Thank you.
Oh, and so it's I guess the same question still, which was what specific things could you do to help make the government more open? And my answer to that is, under the Georgia Open Meetings Act, when you go into closed session, number one, you're supposed to have a specific reason in the agenda for going into closed session. For instance, on July the 24th, when the City Council, July 24th of this year, when the City Council discussed whether to enter into the Memorandum of Understanding with the 3 Portia Drive project for a $107 billion bond, which is essentially a tax abatement. Basically, there was no specific reason given. It should have said basically, we discussed whether to go into executive session for the Memorandum of Understanding on 3 Portia Drive. That's a specific reason. If you think that's a real estate exception, you go into the closed session, you discuss it, you come out, you have your vote, do whatever. In that situation, I would quibble with whether that's a real estate exception, and that's the matter that came up before the Development Authority the night that you went in there. And so that had already been dealt with in a closed session of all 3 development authorities which they never mentioned the memorandum of understanding. The reason why I know it was a memorandum of understanding between those parties is because I did an open records request, and now I know. So basically, what you could do specifically is, number one, you could say, what are we going into closed session for? Let's discuss this. And somebody could say, well, it's to talk about what about Three Portia Drive? What's going on Are we buying it? Well, the development authority might buy it. Okay, well, let's talk about whether we need to talk about that in secret. What is it, a bond issue? Okay, so we can talk about that in the open. I'm talking about it in the open right now. Everybody knows what happened. Now I've got the documents. There was never any reason besides the fact that they wanted to ramrod that through without anybody inspecting it, for that to go through like that. And there was a reason why it was in a closed session. And if you look back, 2014, and you can go further, there has never ever been a situation where the city council of Hapeville voted to not go into closed session. And there's never been an instance where they cited the specific reasons. They cite the exceptions they're working under, but they don't cite the specific subject matter. So you don't know what's being discussed, and that can turn around as soon as we get a new city council in there. That's something that is put in there by staff, which when city council shows up, what are we discussing? You're asking us to go into closed session, what's it for? Have we discussed it via email beforehand? I mean, what's going on? What's in closed session? How do we know if the subject matter is restricted to what we voted on if we don't have something on this piece of paper saying what that subject matter is supposed to have been? And so that hasn't happened. And nobody's ever voted against going into closed session as far as you can find minutes going back to listen for. So the specific thing that you can do is not vote to go into closed session, which I won't unless I get a written opinion from a city attorney saying you must vote to do so. Otherwise, I won't. Thanks.
When it comes to transparency, we need a radical solution. In the city of Hapeville, there must be a clear vision, as you've heard most of the candidates. Between the citizens and the city government, often there's a leader, our mayor, who unilaterally makes decisions concerning hiring, salaries, and the direction of Hapeville. I believe that. All salaries, RFP information should be made public. Number two, who is accountable for payments that outcome that go to vendors. And three, a forensic audit made available to the public, because people want to know who we're spending our money with, not just your brother-in-law. It's a hard decision for city government, and one that requires a lot of sacrifice and effort from city council, and I appreciate what they've done so far with Josh being on the council. So there are many things more effective at making citizens feel like being a part of the city, and being able to talk about concerns, just like we're doing right now, frustrations, rather than keeping secrets in our citizens in the dark. Thank you.
Okay, do we have another question?
I agree.
Three, wow.
For Chloe and Travis, you've attended the last couple, but Chloe and Brendan haven't attended any council meetings. And I was just wondering why you haven't attended. Do you not feel like you need to get ready for the upcoming election?
You said I haven't attended any? I have attended council meetings and you have to sign in, so I don't know if those are kept, but you'll find my name. I actually met Mark several times at council meetings. I haven't been present at them. It's really an issue of, and I'll just be transparent, a lot of times I don't like what I see, and it makes me uncomfortable, and so I prefer to watch it at home. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a proponent of live streaming, because some people can't attend, and they should have that option. It should be consistent, because I know there was a span of time where there were none videotaped, and then suddenly George would send the link and say that they were videotaped. But it's not that I don't care, I don't think it's important. I'm being very transparent. I always sit in the back. I think I'm someone who's pretty unassuming. I don't ever make a public comment but I don't agree with some of the things I've seen happen at council meetings, and so I just made a conscious decision. The last time I was president, something that I didn't agree with at all took place, and I think Linda, you mentioned things about professionalism and lack thereof. I have a problem with that, so I just made a choice not to attend because that's
You're
not.
gonna get through the council
How are you
meetings
gonna be able to go
if you're
to
elected?
council meetings? I
I
mean,
mean,
you're
you
gonna
don't-
have to be president, so how is that gonna happen? Because you will, I mean, you know, well, there'll be a lot, there'll be a lot of.
I was gonna say the same thing,
Yeah.
if you're not comfortable with what's going on, you're gonna have to get through it if you're elected.
I think it's a different matter if you're elected. The same thing I said, if I'm elected, it's no longer an option for me to be president or not. And I wouldn't say I don't feel like going today because I wasn't comfortable about what happened. And it's also a matter of, I have a family, so it's a situation where I'm gonna be here and being uncomfortable and feel like I need to speak out, but I can't necessarily say what I wanna say. And I can watch at home, or it's a matter of going to be there. It's a completely different thing if you're elected. I would never say, I don't like what happened, I'm not going to be present. I am obligated to be present, and I would never turn my back on my obligations.
Since you're being completely transparent, is it the citizens' comments or something going on in council?
A little bit of both.
Well, I completely understand, I haven't been in council members. And I pulled up a law, I requested is it the sunshine law? See. Brandon, what about you?
Okay, so-
You doing live stream?
So first of all, you know, the question is, why do you never attend council meetings? Because that's
Actually,
obviously.
been to some, you just.
I've seen you pop in for a question and then pop right back out.
Okay, so is there a problem with
I
that?
was
Do
just
you have a
wondering
problem
why
with
you
that?
don't sit and attend with.
Well, basically, ever since, we've had this system of law that we have since the Magna Carta was signed in 1216. Our law is built on the written word. That's why we have minutes, and the minutes determine the legal direction of the city, not anything that's said in council. What happens in council, what happened in 1964 is on the minutes. What happened in 1972 is on the minutes. What happened in 2016 is on the minutes. What happened in 2017 is on the minutes. Excuse me, this isn't follow-up time. You asked your question, and I'm going to answer it. What you're saying is a common misconception is that someone must come down and go to the council meetings to know what's going on. That's false. There's a packet there. I believe you could probably ask Josh, or you could probably ask Alan Hallman whether my presence is known about any issues that I have an issue with, because I do email them if I do have an issue. And I show up, if I can, to talk about the issues. One of the problems that's going on right now in terms of city council is the staff has decided in contravention of Hateville Code, if you look at last night's or the other night's agenda, you'll see that the public comments regarding agenda items are now after the agenda items are discussed, which, according to the Hateville Code and Charter, the public comments are supposed to come before the agenda items. Now, why would we want citizens to weigh in before the vote? I mean, anybody's guess. But what I'm saying, would you like to ask a question? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to comment on that. They have public comments after they discussed it, but they don't vote on it until after the public comments. Am I
Well,
correct with that?
that's not true. Because the agenda items are under discussion.
Josh can answer that.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, when you go to city council, when you go to city hall in March of 2017, and you don't have, and the city clerk can't provide the written documents regarding what has been voted on for the last 6 months, that's how you know that you don't know what's going on with your city government. Because the city does not videotape the meetings. The only people that do that is citizens. So the discussions that are had are irrelevant. The only thing that exists is the minutes. That's what exists. And that's how you know what's going on. And anybody, whether they're disabled, can go look at those minutes. That's the point. So the thing you're saying about trundling down to the city hall and doing whatever it is that you think is participating, I don't look at that as participating. What I look at as participating is going down to city hall and saying, Where are the minutes? Where are the legally effective documents that say how we are to be governed, with them written down with the votes? And, as you've seen on YouTube, they can't be provided for 6 months. What's that all about? That's how I get involved. If you want to get involved by going to meetings, I respect that. But I would differ with you about whether or not one must go to the meetings to be involved. I assure you that I'm involved.
I guess,
Okay.
I just want to say something on her behalf and your behalf, because we talked about, we've already gone through all that about oath and what you said. But I guess our concern, and I agree with Heather on this part, as a citizen, that, you know, we don't see y'all at the council meeting. I don't go to all of them, but Heather does. And so she goes to, with your
Did you see the council meeting where I came? And did you see the city council meeting where Mickey came and asked where was this water and sewer authority?
Yes, I met Mickey.
Okay,
I've been there.
and so were you there when Steve Fincher said there isn't any water and sewer
Yes,
authority?
yes, yeah.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, we
And did he say there was no water and sewer authority?
I believe he said it hasn't been active.
It hasn't been active.
I think
It hasn't been
I
active.
think
Okay.
maybe, but that's,
That's
you know.
good.
Okay.
That's good, and that is exactly,
But anyway, that's
these
not
types
what
of
we're talking
issues,
about.
these types of issues, even the types of issues you're talking about, can all be dealt with something that everybody on this panel has mentioned, which is videotape and post everything. Whether or not it's live stream, I can give a crap whether it's a live stream. Put it up online. Believe me, I've had the city file bar complaints against me, and I've had them spend $20,000 in legal fees to fail to make an effective bar complaint because of the videotapes that I provided and because of the transcripts from court that I provided. So, if anyone would like to see documents of any of those things, I would be glad to share them anytime. There is absolutely no way that you can make the complaint that I am not involved in the city government because I don't come to meetings. And I thank you very much for your question. And it's obvious that you've come down here to politely ask me a few questions, and I really appreciate it, so thank you.
No, I'm supporting my candidate, thank you, but I have another question.
What candidate did you ask about?
No, wait, we are
You asked
not
about a
going,
candidate?
wait.
Thanks.
I said
We are
supporting-
not going to get into one-on-one attacks. We are not going to try to isolate one candidate over another. We are here to get information on what they plan to do once they are on council, not what has happened in the past. There's nothing they can do about that. Let's move it forward. Is there another question?
My second question, please. Were you planning on serving on any service organizations? I know a lot of you are very technically inclined, do a lot of research. Were you going to do any serving? I do a lot of serving on a lot of organizations here in Hapeville. And we can just go down the line if you're going to do any serving, hands-on, any of the clubs,
Personally.
once you become a council person. It can go real quick.
Well, but is that a relevant
Yes,
question?
it's very
for what
important to
we're
me.
trying to
Community
use?
service, community
Community
service.
I know what you're talking
Being a
about.
city council.
But to me, the fact that they're running is community service. Now, if either candidate would like to answer that question,
Sure, absolutely. I think that anybody who's running for city council should have a civic mind, basically. And I would definitely be involved as volunteerism, as well as the civic thing that's happening in the community. I'm part of HCOPS now and everything else. So I think that it's important to be visible if you're going to represent the people here in the city of Hapeville.
I agree with Mark. I'll answer. I agree with Mark, and yes, I already serve. I'm HCOPS. I'm in the Hapeville 13. Hapeville Cares, Paint the Town, Clean and Beautiful, and many other things. Community Garden, help clean the parks after Irma, and many other things. Help build the playground down there. But I read some things to the kids on Halloween, and apparently dress up. It should be fun to watch.
okay.
And I will continue to do so.
All right, next, anybody else?
You know, I did the, I'm very civically minded. I was vice president of our neighborhood association. When I got elected, I stepped down. I've done the Cocoon project. You know, I have done the HCOPS. I'm on council, and I'm around everywhere. You know, I'm part of the group that picks up trash on the street. You know, I go down there when I walk my son who peeked his head in here a few minutes ago. Then, you know, I got my little grabber thing, and I walk down when I pick up trash. You know, I'm very civic-minded, but a lot of my time is involved in city life, so it's fun.
I was gonna say, I'm also involved in the city, probably not in the way that most people think, not the big exchange club or Clean and Beautiful, but more within my own community, the Latino community in particular. That's where I'm kind of invested over the years. I've helped with find legal representation for people who are in threat of being detained. I've gone to Stewart Detention Center to kind of give messages to people because you have to show government issued ID to have visitation with people. So I've visited prisons on people's behalf. I've helped gather funds for people who've been pulled over and don't understand that their citation is also in order to appear in court. And then the soccer team that Travis is referring to was started by my husband with the help of myself and a friend, because a lot of the kids couldn't afford well, this year there wasn't soccer offered, it was just a workshop, but they couldn't afford to pay for soccer, and they also didn't have transportation, so they organized that with the help of sponsors and with the help of people in the community. So I'm very invested in that, and I know one of my platforms, before I had my second son, I was pretty involved at Hate Elementary when Juanita Nelson was the principal. I would be there usually 2 or 3 days a week just to help out with different things. And to kind of bridge that gap between the community and the school, and namely just the fact that we kind of get them more invested in the community and kind of see us beyond just the kids that they teach. I would love to see the existing organizations like Hateville, Clean and Beautiful, like the Exchange Club, kind of work a partnership with the school, because I think that's also important for children who aren't necessarily, you know, they're not going to go to council meetings and things like that, but to kind of get them invested in the community, make them feel a part of the community and that they're important, their families are important, to get them involved in things like cleaning up the park. I know that's a hot button issue for a lot of people. And for me, I love the park. I love seeing kids in the park, and I hate seeing all the trash they leave behind. But to kind of realize that they are part of the city, and so they need to care, they need to be invested in the ways they can as well. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
I mean, I think hands down, as a personality trait, I'm more of a one-to-one person, so more than many. And so, I mean, there's things that I've been involved in previously, and got out of them, but in this area, South Atlanta is a heavy sex trafficked area. And those are things that, like, if you're helping in that field, it's probably not something that you're wanting to talk about the temperatures in Hateville. But there are. And so it's things like that civically I'm involved in, but I don't, it's on video now. But,
You're saying you combat it?
I mean, there's just various organizations, but I guess what I'm saying is like I try to help out where I can civically, but I'm not looking to overdo it in the sense where, I mean, I don't mind breaking a neighbor's yard, but I don't think I have to belong to an organization per se to do that. But
You're already an H
I did Citizens on Patrol.
Yeah,
I
you're
never
an
became an H cop per se in terms of graduating into the second tier of citizen policing, but
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Next.
Oh, hey, yes,
Running over time.
in terms of public service, I have, I've given countless hours in the last year and a half to pro bono legal work for the citizens of Hateville regarding different issues regarding water and sewer fees and regarding the bond for the Solis Hotel and securing a more beneficial deal for the taxpayers, where the taxpayers won't be charged to defend that deal. You can find that, in case you're quizzical, John, you can find that in response to my bar complaint that Alan and Steve filed. And so that is something that I'm very proud of, is securing benefits for Hateville's taxpayers. And, you know, obviously in terms of local service organizations, you know, as a member of city council, I couldn't be a member of a local service organization that basically sought either benefits or donations from the local governing council on a repeated yearly basis. So obviously that couldn't be available for that. So, but otherwise, yeah, I'm open to it.
Okay, Mr. Matt?
I'll attend all city council meetings, by the way, because I've seen all of y'all. In 2014, I became civic-minded here and prepared me to run for alderman in 2015. So that was the first time that I got involved in Hayville city government. Since then, we have a brand new park right next to the Hayville Library that I helped build with my own two hands. And I'm proud of that. I also serve on the Board of Appeals that keeps commercial and residential properties in Hayville compliant. And so when we think about doing our civic duty, what we're doing right now is our civic duty. Right now, we're telling you what our vision. Everybody's talking about what their vision is, and so you have to base your opinion on who you want to vote for on that alone. So yes, I have all the things that I've done here up until this point, in my estimation, has been a big benefit to this city.
All right, thank you. It's just a quick one because we have to get Ms. Schofield. And then we're kind of over time. But if it's a quick question, is it for any one person?
No, it's just a general
Okay.
thing. One of the things I was thinking is, you know how people have a different opinion about stuff and they end up going on next door and it ends up being a bloodbath on next door. So if you guys end up being a city council member, how would you smooth the waters to help everyone get along and not attack in any way, shape, or form, but represent the entire city, even if they don't have your opinion? You know, how would you blend the gap, sort of thing?
I'll start. Sure. I'm going to take myself off next door because it is a bloodbath. There are a lot of people who have moved on from that. And to me, it doesn't make any sense to try to argue with everybody on there because everybody comes on there and they attack. And they have a special candidate in mind and they're doing things for their candidate. They don't think we know it, but they're doing things right now.
Yeah, but how would you blend the gap? We all know that there's a problem. Some of the stuff that you guys do, and even Brendan, you're incredibly intelligent with a lot of that stuff that I wouldn't even know or understand. It's just how sometimes things come across that ends up giving city people a black eye. We don't want to have a black eye regardless if it's good or bad. So my question again is, how would you blend the gap between everybody so everyone can get along and move forward?
Well, I mean, you know, since you mentioned me, here I am. I don't see how it gives Hayville a black eye to say, hey, look, we just borrowed $2 million from water users because we didn't have any money. That's just the way it is. It's in the agenda. It's not, and so we need to decide going forward how we get out of that situation, not refuse to talk about it. You know, and a lot of people have mentioned, you know, some of the things that give Hayville a black eye for real are things that I talked about at the last forum. Get a pair of all-terrain litter vacuums and let's clean up the trash here. Can we just, like, literally, I get, we've got people who will go out and volunteer, but we can't do it like with basically a guy in a pickup and a couple of guys with rakes and all-terrain vacuums.
Beautiful does it.
I agree that they do, but I'm going to tell you, every day on Virginia Park, you can ride up and down there, and it is not clean and beautiful, my friend. So I mean, if anybody's noticed something different, and is that controversial to say?
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm just giving you anything.
Okay, I got you. So that's the way. So as far as bridging the gap, let's face it. What you got in city council is you got a democracy that involves the city councilmen that are there, and sometimes the vote's going to be 3-1. Sometimes it's going to be 2-1 with somebody abstaining. I can't always vote like someone would like me to vote, but I'm going to explain why I'm voting the way I'm voting. And I'm going to try to explain what I think the legislation that we're talking about is about. And then I'm going to make a decision that everybody can see right through because I'm telling you why I'm making it. I'm going to say, this paragraph says this, I don't like it. And then I'm going down the road. So.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sure, I think you have to lead interpersonally before you lead digitally. So like, I think our conversations have always been with some sense of decorum where you feel, hopefully at least, that I'm trustworthy in the words that are coming out of my mouth, and I can hear what you're saying. So I think being an active listener outside of social media and personally replicating that same trait in social media is what would help, just from a personal perspective. Can I control what somebody else says? No. In the sense of a private website, there's community guidelines. There's something like Nextdoor for Hapeville has about 45 leads, if I recall. And so, I mean, the effort to enforce those community guidelines, there's folks from, if we want to say that Hapeville is in different sort of camps, if you will, there's folks from sort of a plethora of diversity of ideas that can go in and vote on something. So I think definitely having clear communication between folks that are administrators on a social media site can help calm the waters. But I think we have to lead individually and personally from knowing that a misspelled word or a misplaced prepositional phrase can make me think, oh, that person hates me. When in all reality, they just put an exclamation point because they're happy. And so you might know that person in real life and say that person is a happy person. If they put an exclamation point, they're probably happy. But if you've seen them in the past and they're sort of gung-ho, guns to the ground, and they put an exclamation point, that might come across as that person's really rude. So I think leading interpersonally from a person-to-person level, replicating that in social media is the way to go.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know if I know the answer to that question because I dislike social media strongly for that reason, because usually people go into it with an intention of something. And I know for me personally, Nextdoor, I was really excited. I was like, meet people, learn about events, and there was just a lot of arguing. And I've even found myself posting things like, why are we attacking this person? That's not fair. But it's even hard to do that. That is exhausting. And I think something that Travis said is very profound, when you know that you run the risk of running into that person, getting your nail or walking your dog, you're probably less likely to make the same comments. So I think the only thing that you can really do is be objective and be overly informed. And if people choose to run with that, you don't really have control over that. But facts are facts, and I think it's important to lead with facts, and people are going to form their opinions regardless of whether what you're saying is true or not. I think you just have to be just kind of mindful. It always has that potential, unfortunately, but outside of violating guidelines, you can't do much about how people react to that information.
So,